Welcome to Tech Primers. This is the continuation video from the previous video. So in the previous video, what we did is we created a microservices design pattern for an application called Stock Price Viewer. Okay, with that application, we came up with a design. So this is the design which we had designed our architecture for microservices design pattern, and we started developing microservices, right? So what we did is we created DB service, we created stock service, we created a service registry, which is the Eureka server, and then we had some issue with the Yahoo Finance API, so that is where we left, right? So I actually recorded this particular video sometime back, but what happened was since I tried creating so many microservices, my laptop couldn't handle that, and then it got crashed. So the whole video went off after an hour of recording. Whole video went off. So what I had to do is I had to revert the whole code, and I'm going to recreate everything for you in the same video again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to merge the API gateway and the service registry into a single process, so that we will save some memory there. So I don't want to, and also I'll not create the code maintenance service because it's just the add and deletion of the codes for a particular user. So I'm not going to do that. I will just leave it to you guys. You can go ahead and try that out. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the Zuul proxy, and I'm going to merge the Zuul proxy into the Eureka service. Okay, and from the stock service we are going to use Eureka service to connect to the DB service. So that we didn't do in the last video. We had a URL hard coded, but we are going to change that. So that's what we are going to do first. So first we are going to fix the Yahoo Finance API. It was not working, right? So I found the fix, so I'll make that, and then we can work on it, right? So this is the place where we had the problem, right? So what happened was we retrieved the stock price information, we got the stock, but what was happening, there was an exception, there was a 500 internal exception, right, saying that the ichart.yahoo.com was down or something. So I saw that Yahoo has decommissioned this particular API. They are not going to use this API anymore. So but still it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly refactor the code. So I'm going to say get stock of the code. So we are going to get only the pricing information, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create one more pojo, so that this price information is left there. Okay, so I'll just create a variable here called stock. Okay, it has a stock now, and I'm going to say create a code, and the first information is going to be code, and the second information is going to be stock.getCode.getPrice. So this is going to give the price of the stock. Okay, and I'm going to create a class pojo. So I'm just creating an inner class so that we can use it. Okay, so let's use IntelliJS feature to create parameters. I just say code, create code. I'll just say create price, and finally I'm going to say getters and set getters. Okay, cool. My pojo is ready, so I have the object as well here, and I need to return the same object, right? So I need to return the code object itself, right? So this should work now. I need to do a return here, right? So this will work. So we are going to test that. Meanwhile, if you notice here, what we have done is we have hard-coded the URL of the database service, right? So we should not do this. We should not hard-code the path of database service. We should be using the Eureka service to retrieve the database service information and route our request. So we created the Eureka service, the service registry, because of this only. So we don't have to hardcode the URL in this process. So we don't have to hardcode the URL of stock of DB service inside stock service. That is why we have the service registry. So we say service registry by providing a service name. So for the DB service, the service name is DB-service. So let's bring up the Eureka server, and I'll show you why I chose that name, right? So when we bring up Eureka server, and when we bring up the DB service, let me bring up DB service also. The DB service will register to the Eureka service under the name called DB-service. So that name comes from the application.property. So we have named our application as spring application.name as DB service, right? So that is the name with which we will be now calling the service. So if you see here, the URL is weird, right? So this is how the discovery service is going to work. The service registry is going to work basically. So Eureka will identify that, okay, I have this particular name. Okay, I will go and check in my registry, and then I will route it for you. So additional to that, what we need to do is we need to go to the configuration. If you see in the REST template, we are going to use REST template to do this, right? We are doing a REST template or exchange. In the REST template, we have to do load balancing. So we have to do client side load balancing. So we have to add this annotation called at load balanced. If you see in the previous video, I added and deleted it, but we need to add that so that there is a client side load balancing which will take care of resolving that URL. So it will go to service registry and resolve it. So that is why we need to add that at load balance. So if you are using a normal REST template and you don't use any service registry or any other framework, you don't have to add the at load balance. You need that specifically for the Eureka service. Okay, so if you see what is happening, I think DB service is not coming up. I think this is because database is not up. So I haven't brought the MySQL up. Let me go and quickly bring that up. Meanwhile, the Eureka server should be up. Let's go to the Eureka server and check the server, right? So right, so what I need to do, user local MySQL. Right, so I'm just starting the MySQL server. Okay, so good. So our MySQL server is started. Yeah, it's success. So let's go ahead and quickly start the DB service, which failed because DB service was connected to the MySQL database, but since the database was down, it was not able to connect, and the connections were failing, and that's why the process was not up. And if you notice here, Eureka service is already up, so it is having the dashboard, and there are no services running right now. Okay, so we have started DB service. Let's see if the DB service is getting registered, and let's say, I think meanwhile I can also start the stock service, right, to save some time. So let's go and start the stock service also. Okay, I'll just move this preview to the last. Right, okay. So if I refresh this page, we should see some information. Yeah, if you notice here, already DB service has registered to the Eureka server. Let's wait for the stock service also to register. Once stock service is registered, we will now hit the stock service, and internally we had changed the URL, right? Now the stock service is going to use Eureka to route to the DB service. Okay, that is what we are going to check now here. So I'll just keep the URL ready. So the URL for stock service is 8301, and this is going to be the URL, right? rest/stock. So let's hit it and see. Right, so there is a ribbon load balancing error. I think this is because the load balancing, let's see if the Eureka is registered. Yeah, so the DB service is registered, so we have the stock service and the DB services both registered. Let's go and refresh this URL. If you see here, there is a exception in the ribbon client, no class definition error, could not recognize. Okay, I think it is because the server is not completely up, right? And I think I hit the REST endpoint before that. Let's check quickly what is the error here. So I'll just clear this off and then I'll restart the server. So I have configured at 18301 the name is stock service, right? Fine, let this come up first, and we will hit the REST endpoint after it is registered, right? We were troubling it sometime back, but yeah. Okay, it is up now. It has gone to the discovery client. Yeah, let's go and check if it is connected to the Eureka server, right? So let's go and check in the Eureka server if the stock service is still showing up. Yeah, so it's showing us up. Now we can hit the REST endpoint. So now this is going to hit the DB service and retrieve the stock information for the Peter. So it is going to go to the DB service. Yeah, it's working, right? So if you notice here, okay, the DB service went, the stock service went to the DB service queried what are all the codes which are available for Peter, and then it retrieved the stock information. Okay, if you see here, there are three stock codes assigned for Peter. So if I, let's say I want it for Sam, it will go to Sam's information. So Sam has only Google, so it went to Sam's it went to the database and retrieved the code for Sam, which is Google, and using that Google, it went into the Yahoo Finance API, retrieved the price information, and it is showing up in the UI. Okay, so what we did here is from the stock service we connected to the service registry. From the service registry it went to the DB service, it got the data, it came to the stock service, it went to Yahoo Finance API, retrieved the data, and then we got it. Okay, that is what we did here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create the API gateway and embed that into the Eureka service. Okay, that's what I'm going to do now. So let's go to the Eureka service. So we need to in order to embed that, we need to add the dependency, POM dependency. So the dependency is Spring Cloud Starter Zuul. This is the dependency which we need to add. So the version which I'm adding is 1.3.0 release. Okay, so this is going to have the Zuul proxy enabled in this particular project. So as you know, Spring Boot has this way of having annotation, so we need to add the annotation for Zuul proxy as well. So we need to add the enable Zuul proxy annotation. This is going to make this particular process behave like a proxy. Okay, it is just going to be like a proxy, so it's just going to be like a bypass system. Okay, so how will we tell Spring Boot, or how will we tell Zuul to be a proxy? So we need to add some properties. So I already have some properties here, so I'm going to add the properties for the DB service and the stock service, right? So what we need to do is we need to give the URLs of the DB service and stock service here. Okay, and we need to give the REST endpoints of these. Okay, so if you see here, what I'm doing here is I'm just configuring the URL and the path with which we need to connect the DB and the stock service. Okay, so let me finish it and I will tell you. Okay, so what we have done here is we are saying that every REST endpoint which comes under /API needs to be proxied, okay, which is Zuul protected. Now under API, if it is having DB service, go to this particular host. Okay, if it is going to have stock service, go to this particular host. That's what we are doing here. So we are basically having two registered hosts, two registered services. One is the DB service and the stock service. So this is going to be like a proxy. So when any request comes in, it indirectly redirects to 8300 or 8301, and this is basically running in 8302. And if you see this particular process is running in the port 8302. Okay, so yeah, see this, right? This particular process runs in 8302. So if you hit 8302 port number, it is indirectly going to go to 8300 or 8301. That is what we are going to do. Okay, that is what Zuul is for. So that is why this API gateway is in place here. So it is just going to be like a proxy. So whenever a request comes in, okay, it goes to the stock service, okay, or it goes to the DB service directly. So literally we are doing microservices interprocess communication using the API gateway, and from the stock service it is going to use the Eureka service to figure it out what other microservices are there, and it can connect to that. So that is how we are using the Eureka design pattern, basically the service registry design pattern, right? So we have now designed the API gateway. Now we need to hit the REST endpoints, right, with this particular API / whatever. So let's restart the Eureka server, the Eureka service basically. So meanwhile, let me check if the video is getting recorded. Yeah, it's getting recorded. Yeah, last time what happened, it was as I said earlier, my video got corrupted and my system got restarted and I had to revert everything and do it again. But yeah, this time I'm very cautious. Okay, so I think it has registered. It's trying to register the clients and it couldn't find, so that's why that exception came. So let's go and check the dashboard and confirm that all the registrations are done, and then we will hit the so the registrations are done. So the clients are registered to the Eureka server. Now if you see the URL for this, we are going to use this particular URL. So previously we used the stock information of Sam with directly hitting the stock service, right? Now we are going to use the API gateway. So we are going to say API stock hyphen service, okay, and then we will have rest slash stock slash Peter, right? This, what is going to happen is, let me refresh it. So I think no instance available for DB service. This is because it takes a while for the service to register, so that is what is happening. That's why it's still showing an error. Yeah, it has worked, right? So yeah, so if you notice here, previously we had used the URL called 8301 with which we directly hit the stock service. Now we are going to use the API gateway. Using the API gateway, we are using the stock hyphen service and retrieving the stock for Peter. Okay, if we want to access the DB service, we will do this. We will use the DB service and we will do DB, and if you notice, these are the stock codes for the Peter, for the username Peter, and this is directly going to the DB service from the API gateway. Okay, previously when we hit the stock service, it went to the stock service from the API gateway. Stock service internally used the Eureka service to identify the DB service, and it was internally using this, right? So literally we have gone through 3 or 4 levels of microservices um, what do you call navigation. So we went to API gateway, from there it went to stock service, from there it went to service registry, and from there it went to DB service. Okay, that's what we did there, right? So now we need to create a UI and we need to integrate that into the UI, right? So how are we going to do that? I already created a sample UI code. Let me open that. Let me open that inside Sublime Text, because last time what happened, when I opened it inside Visual Studio and it got screwed up. So I don't want to screw up this time, right? So I have only 2 files. One is the index.html and the other one is the app.js, sorry. Let me maximize this, right? I'll just make it bigger. Okay, cool. I think this should be enough, right? Yeah. So what I'm doing here is, in the HTML, it's a basic HTML file, so I'm not going to run any Tomcat or any web server for running this particular AngularJS code. So it's just a simple HTML page. You can run a client-side AngularJS, right? So that's what I'm doing here. So I'm going to add the Angular library as a script dependency here, and I'm going to include my script, the other file, the app.js file, which is going to have our controller. Okay, and coming to the UI part, so I'll have something called username, that is just a text box, and there is one more text box called code, and I have 2 buttons, one called add and one called retrieve price. So add is going to add the quotes for that particular user, and retrieve price is going to retrieve the quote information, retrieve the price information for that particular user. Whatever quotes are there configured in the database, it will retrieve all those quote information and those prices. Okay, so I'm using the application. So the application is called my app. So I have created the Angular application here. So I have created the Angular module called my app, and I have tagged that ng app here as my app. The controller which I'm going to use is my controller. It's just I'm just aliasing it as ctrl, and when I click on the buttons, I have some action item here. So I just say ng click. So retrieve price will now call the retrieve method. So if I go to the retrieve method, I can see what happens in the retrieve method. In the retrieve method, I have this URL here, right? So this is nothing but the URL with which we are going to access, or we just access, right? So if you go to the browser, right, we just access this URL. So this is the same URL whatever we access. So this is going to be the gateway URL. If I go to the diagram here carefully, right, so the UI is going to have only the gateway URL. It is not going to have any other stuff. That is what we have done here. Okay, so that is what we are doing here as well. So it is going to go to stock service and retrieve the stock for that particular name, whichever we provided in this username text box. Okay, so whatever name we provided in the username text box, it is going to query for that particular user. Okay, and the response is going to be pushed inside a variable called quotes, and that quotes I'm just printing it here, nothing else. Okay, so and for the other method, so if there is a add button action which got triggered, that will now go and push the quote information for the user into the database. So I don't know if it works. I just tried in my previous video, but it did not work because I was doing something wrongly. But I can show you in Postman. So what I will do is I'll push that into Postman and I'll see how the code got changed or something like that. Okay, so I'm just doing a post here, and if you see here, instead of stock service, I'm going to use DB service, and I'm doing an add, and then I'm just giving the JSON message, and I'm pushing that into the same code here, nothing else. Okay, that is what the UI is doing. So the UI is basic simple UI. So if I open the UI, right, let me open the UI and show you what is there in the UI. So this is what is there in the UI. Okay, so the UI is going to have a username field, quote, add and retrieve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say Peter, and I'm going to hit the retrieve option. Okay, this is going to run the REST endpoint which we did here, and if you notice here, it ran and already we got the result here. Okay, we got the stock price information. So literally we have accessed the API gateway. Okay, we from the UI we accessed the API gateway, it went to stock service, it went to service registry, it went to DB service, collected all the information, collated it together, and then it pushed it to the UI. That is what has happened here right now. Okay, so that is what has happened here. Okay, so if I say I want to add one more quote into Peter's name, right? So for example, let's say I want to have Tesla's quote. Okay, I want to add Tesla's stock information. I click on the plus button. Okay, it is working. Cool. So once I click on the plus button, it ran the DB service. So it ran the DB service with the add option. So if you see here, what we did is we ran the add option with the JSON message which the DB service expected. So if I go to the DB service, right, the DB service was expecting an add option. Actually the quote maintenance service is supposed to do that only. Okay, but I have directly done that from the API gateway itself because it's not required. Actually, I just figured that out, which the quote maintenance service is not required because the endpoint is already inside DB service. So if you see here, it has come here, it added the quote information and it retrieved what all quotes are there for that particular user, and it is showing up in the UI. So Tesla quote got added to Peter, and if I now do a retrieve price, Tesla quote also should come to the UI. If you see here, yeah, Tesla price is 355, so that also has come. So if I need to display this into a neater format, right, I don't know if I can do, let me try, right. So what I will do, I'll just try displaying this in a neater format. I'll just put a table. Okay, so table tr, and I will have a th. So quote, I'll just have a quote, and then what else I have? Price, right? This is already there, and now I need to do the ng repeat option, right? So what I will do, I'll just say ng-repeat, right? And I need to repeat quotes in quote. Okay, and I'm going to say this is going to be quote dot, what is the quote? Okay, it's going to be quote. Why did I name it as quote? I don't know. Okay, so this is what is going to happen. And the next one is price, right? We need the price. Is it price? Is it called as price? Yeah, it's price. So it's called as price, and I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close the table. That's it. So let's see if the table gets refreshed, and I will just remove this quote, right? Let me refresh this and make the UI better. I think something happened, something failed, right? So what failed? I think something in Angular only failed because I think maybe I messed up with the syntax here. Let me see if that is the problem. No, that is not the problem. What other things are stuck? I had a tr table, right? So I had a quote, ng repeat. I just did a ng repeat. So what is the problem for this guy now? Let me quickly go and then search the quotes in, sorry, ng repeat in Angular. Okay, x in records. Okay, whatever I did previously, whatever this is correct, right? Okay, and why did it fail? Okay, the table got displayed. Okay, I can access the XX. Yeah, that's what I have done here, the quote, and then I can say quote.quote because that is going to be JSON. So let's refresh this guy now. Still there is a problem. I think why I think let's go to the app.js. Is it having, I think there is already an object called quote already. So what I'll do is I'll just say this as q, and then I'll just rename this as q so that nothing gets messed up, and I'll refresh this page. Still not working. And I don't even see what is the problem. So let me comment this guy, and then still now it should work. Alright, and I'll just print the codes. Alright, something got screwed up, guys. So what got screwed up, I'm not sure. Did we add anything unnecessary? Hopefully I didn't add anything which is creating this problem. What did I do from the beginning? Copy this. I think this is what we did, right? Okay. Let me refresh the page. Yeah, something is working now, right? Right, so now let me paste that code which I had in mind, right? I'll refresh it. Okay, cool. It is getting displayed now. Let me remove this, and then I'll just refresh this page. Cool, our code is now working. Now if I say Peter, and if I say retrieve price, this is going to retrieve the price. Yeah, I can see that. So the code for Google is this, Apple is null, we didn't get it, Amazon is whatever, Tesla is whatever. Yeah, that's it. So if I have to have one more code information added, let's see for Sam, right? So for Sam, we'll retrieve the price and we'll add Sam. So for Sam, let's add Tesla, right? So I'm going to say add. Okay, the Tesla price is going to be added, the Tesla code will be added, and I think it won't be displayed because we did not have it. Yeah, I think I added twice Tesla. Fine, cool. So it is working. So this is the Angular web UI, whatever we saw in the architecture diagram. So we have created a web UI, we added the code information, whatever new codes information we have added. Whenever we do a retrieve, those are getting retrieved. Okay, that's what we did. And how we designed is we created a Zuul API gateway proxy, and then we merged that inside the service registry, which is the Eureka server. We named it as Eureka service. Okay, that will be the project name inside the project. You can check the project in the GitHub, in the GitHub repository. I have put that there. And we are going to have a stock service. Stock service is going to go to the Yahoo Finance API and retrieve the stock price information real time. TB service is going to store the quote information of for each user, what are all the quotes he has registered to. Okay, so that is what we did. And we were communicating from the stock service to the DB service using the service registry or the Eureka service. Okay, so that is where Eureka comes into picture. And we did not design the quote maintenance service because it did not make any sense, right? After we started designing, we decided to remove it. So I'll not you can remove that. It's not out of scope right now. Okay, so that is it. That is what I wanted to show. But there is one more thing. If you notice here, we have not taken care of any resiliency, right? What if the stock service goes down? What happens to the message, right? What happens to the UI? Do we get any exception, right? Let me bring that down, right? So let's bring the stock service down. Okay, I have brought the stock service now. Now let me go to the UI and then retrieve the stock. Okay, nothing is going to work. It's not even saying anything, right? We should have said something. So we didn't add anything there, right? So that is a problem, isn't it? So we can add different design patterns inside this microservices architecture. So there is something called a Hystrix design pattern. So same way Netflix has created that. Okay, we can use that design pattern to come up with a fallback mechanism. So if something is failed, if something goes wrong, you can go to the fallback and then you can open the circuit. So any subsequent request will be failing, and then once the service is up, you can close the circuit so that the subsequent requests are successful. So that is one type of design pattern. Hystrix is one type of design pattern. One more thing, one more problem which we will be facing in the microservices is the log traceability. Okay, how will we trace the log right from DB service till the UI, right from the UI till the DB service? How will we trace the logs, right? That is a challenge right now in the microservices industry. So there is a library from Spring itself. It's called Spring Cloud Sleuth. I have also made video on that already separately, where I would have shown and I would have deployed it into a cloud environment. So I deployed it into Pivotal Cloud Foundry and I showed that example. So we have to use that as well. So in this particular example, I haven't showed that, but it's just a dependency which you have to add in the form.xml so that you can have the trace ID right from the start till the end. So you will have span ID and trace ID concepts. So you can check my other video to know in depth of what is Spring Cloud Sleuth all about. Okay, so these are different problems which we face in microservice. There are so many other problems as well. For example, if you scale the application, if you introduce new version of stock service, if you introduce new stock service, new DB service, how will it route automatically to which service? How will the API gateway route? Right now we are redirecting to a single port, right? How will it route? So in that case, we have to route API gateway itself to the service registry. From the service registry, it has to now automatically choose which one is load balanced and stuff like that. So those things are there. So these are the different things which we have to consider while designing microservices. Okay, it's not that easy to say, okay, I'm going to microservice, but make sure that you guys are aware that, okay, these are the things which you need to take care while going to microservice design pattern. Okay, so I hope you guys found this video interesting and you learned something from this particular video. If you like the video, go ahead and like it. If you have any doubts, go ahead and drop that in the comment section below. I'll be able to reply whenever I see it. Meet you again in the next video. Thank you very much.